Hi folks, I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet. This shows you how to audit your forms and double check and make sure everything's entered correctly. Go into EMS Student Portal, come down under Clinical Forms, you'll see Paramedic Activity. If you take a look, here's my form that I've entered in here. You can sort them by date using these header fields or by sheet ID and so forth. I've only got the one entered right at the moment. But when you click that eyeball, it's going to bring up your list. It'll show you several of these errors. We're going to talk about them individually, but just take a look at them. If there's a yellow error, those are cautions. So for example, they don't expect that you're going to have a toddler or a neonate in the field. So it might show toddlers should be 0. That doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that it's something we want to take a check on and make sure, did somebody enter this properly. If it's a yellow, as I said, just double check, make sure it's right. If it's red, then that's probably going to need to be re-entered on there. Preceptor not found is a potential issue once you get into 2180. But click past that and it'll start highlighting some of these other areas. If you notice, I have, these are clickable and changeable for me. I can make edits to the top portion of your form here, but I have none of that capability down here in the grid. So if you mess up and you put the wrong date or the wrong time, and this one actually has a wrong time on there, well, I can edit those and fix them. You don't have to re-enter it. However, if you screw up stuff down in here, it's going to need to be re-entered. If you notice on this, I marked on my form here, I wrote down I was there from 12:30 to 14:30. That was 2 hours, from 12:30 p.m. to 14:30. Now, when you're entering the forms, one of the things that is going to show up on here is it's going to say start time. If the hour is 0, use the AM switch. If the hour is 12, then use the PM switch. All the other military times will work. It knows 11:30 is 11:30 and 13:30 is 1:30 p.m. But 12:30, it doesn't know whether that means AM or PM. It does not work solely in military time. So when I entered this form, intentionally in this case, to show you what happens, I entered this as 12:30. It left the AM. So while I was only there for 2 hours, the computer thought I was there for 14 hours. When you do a summary, it's going to add 14 hours to your time. And I've had a number of students that have run into that problem, and they say, well, wait a minute, I thought I was 5 hours over. No, you screwed this up here. So instead of being 5 hours over, you're 7 hours under. So just make sure that you're checking this stuff and that the time flag is correct. As I said, I can edit that if it's necessary, but it is going to mess with your summaries when you're trying to see how you're doing overall. Next thing, as we go down here, I just put everything in red here that you would be entering. So if you notice, we got the IVs established, 3 and 1, and satisfactory. But I also put down subcutaneous injections, and there's none on the form. Did you do them? Well, if you did them, then it needs to be marked on the form. If you didn't do them, I can't undo this, so you have to re-enter the form. It's okay, but it's just going to need to be re-entered. Another thing that I left here that I really like to just review with people, 12 lead. You did 2 12 leads. How can you do a 12 lead without determining if the patient's in normal sinus or AFib or first degree block or whatever? So always mark your 3 leads here as well. You shouldn't have more 12 leads than you do 3 leads at any point in time. You can certainly do a 3 lead without doing a 12 lead, but the other way around, you're really not doing it. Doesn't hurt anything if you don't need it, but it's nice to just get credit for everything you're doing. So I'm going to scroll down now and let's see what's wrong with these patient assessments here. The patient assessments, if you notice, I've done 1 preschool and 4 adults, and that is correct. So I was out on that shift. I did 1 preschool and 4 adults. That would be weird in 2 hours, but you get the idea. Male and female here were left blank. On my form, I've got 1 and 1. Oh, I only did 2 PCRs though, so it's 1 male and 1 female. The system is going to come up with an error if this total does not equal these combined. It doesn't have to do with your patient care reports. It has to do with your age-based assessments. So if I did 4 adults and 1 preschooler, my male plus female must equal 5. The other error that I wanted to show you here, we've got a preschooler. You entered 1 preschooler and 4 adults. Well, if you look at the primary presenting problems in the categories here, you've got 1 altered level of consciousness and 4 trauma. They're all adults. So in this case, one of the traumas was a kid. Well, this should be 1 and 3, and then over here I should have a 1. I can't edit that. That's got to get re-entered. Another relatively common error here is if you look, I was on 2 ambulance runs and 3 of them were ALS. Well, when you say that, it doesn't make sense. People want to look at this and say, oh, that's BLS, this is ALS. No, if you were on 5 ambulance runs and 3 of them were ALS, it would be 5 ambulance runs, 3 of them were ALS, not just your BLS runs here. For team leads, we'll play with that on another day, but this gives you a quick overview. Go through one by one with your forms, and once everything has been checked, then you can come over to the summary, and I've got this ready to go, and it'll put your date range in, give you a nice little grouping. I'm going to click Show Summary, and it will tell you your total numbers that you have for each of those skills. So if you enter 14 hours, I've only got one form entered, I was there for 2 hours, but my system shows 14 hours. You're going to look at this and you're going to say, oh yay, I only needed 12 hours, I'm done. You're not done. You still need to get another 10 hours because you've only got 2. The system has the wrong information entered. Likewise, if you needed to get a couple subcutaneous injections, you entered them, but you didn't do them based on the form here. So when I go through and audit it, we're going to find there's an error. I encourage you, please take a few minutes and look over your forms and just make sure they're correct. If you got questions, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email or something, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. I don't have time the next week or so to do audits, though. So, good luck.